Good morning, students. Hope you all are doing well. Today we begin with the explanation of the second chapter of English literature, The Open Window. It is written by a British novelist, Hector Hugh Munro, popularly known by his pen name Saki. Now, there are three main characters in this story: Mr. Frampton Nuttall, Vera, a young girl of 15, and Mrs. Sepleton. Although we are introduced to a few other characters later in the story, but these three are the main characters. And the entire story takes place in the living room of Mrs. Sepleton's house that has large French windows. Now let us begin with the story. The Open Window. The Open Window is the story about a man named Mr. Frampton Nuttall, who on his doctor's advice goes to a countryside. Now, countryside means rural area that is located outside towns and cities. We can say a village. So he goes to a village to calm or soothe his nervous condition. Frampton Nuttall, he suffers from some nervous disease, some nerve disease. Now, Mr. Frampton basically is a kind of person who worries a lot. He becomes anxious, he is stressed, gets tensed very easily, even in small matters. So, he is advised to spend some time resting in a peaceful countryside. However, what happens there is quite contrary, quite opposite to what Mr. Frampton had expected. Let us read the chapter and find out. "My aunt will be down presently, Mr. Nuttall," said a very self-possessed young lady of 15. "In the meantime, you must try and put up with me." Now, the second line, word self-possessed, means self-possessed is self-assured or confident about oneself. So, in the very first paragraph, we are introduced to a self-confident young lady who is 15 years old, and later on we come to know her name is Vera. So Mr. Frampton goes to a person's house and she's the one who meets him at the door, and she says that her aunt will come down shortly, and by the time he will have to put up with me. Put up with me means put up with means to tolerate, to endure. So by the time aunt comes down, Mr. Frampton will have to tolerate or endure Vera. Anyways, Mr. Frampton doesn't give any answer. He doesn't reply. He doesn't respond to what Vera had said. Rather, in his mind, things are going on. Frampton is a nervous kind of a fellow. So in his mind, he is thinking how he should greet, what he should say that is appropriate, that should be appropriate. Frampton Nuttall endeavored to say the correct something which should duly flatter the niece of the moment without unduly discounting the aunt that was to come. Which means, as he was waiting, Frampton anxiously thinks about an appropriate greeting, an appropriate way to compliment the young girl, Vera, while he wants to reserve the highest flattery, the highest compliment for the aunt who will come down later. So all this is going in Mr. Frampton's mind, and privately, personally, he believes he is not sure, he has doubt that whether coming to a new place and meeting new people will help to his nerve condition at all. He doesn't really approve to it. He doesn't really believe that coming to a new place and meeting new people will anyhow help his nerves or help his disease, will help him get better in any ways. That's what his personal opinion is. Anyways, he has come. Although he believes that all this will not help him, still he has come to this place and he has come to visit Mrs. Sepleton. Why? What is the reason? The reason is Mrs. Frampton's sister, who used to live in this countryside around 4 years ago, and she was concerned about her brother, that he will go to this place and he will remain alone, he will not speak to anybody, and because he will not go and socialize with other people, because he will not go and talk to other people on his own, his disease, his nerves will become worse. That is what she was afraid of. So she gave him some letters of introduction. The people she knew when she used to live in this countryside, the people she got acquainted with, she had written letters of introduction to their names, and Mr. Frampton was now, Mrs. Sepleton was one of those acquaintances, and Mr. Frampton had now come to Mrs. Sepleton's house with one of those letters. So Mr. Frampton's sister was worried about Mr. Frampton, his disease, and she said, according to Miss Frampton's sister, most of the people she knew in this countryside, they were quite nice. So Frampton, he is still thinking, he is quietly standing there and thinking, wondering whether Mrs. Sepleton, the lady to whom he was presenting one of those letters of introduction, whether she came into that division, that nice division, that list of nice people that his sister had mentioned. So till now, boys and girls, he had not spoken a word. Vera came down to greet him. She told him that the aunt will come down shortly, and till then they both can sit down and have a conversation. But as Frampton was a very nervous kind of a fellow, he did not speak a word. Only the things were going on in his mind. He was thinking how to greet Vera, and later on what to say to his aunt, Mrs. Sepleton, and he had doubt that coming to this place will not do any good to him. That is what he thought. Yet he had come there because his sister insisted on doing this, and Frampton was wondering whether Mrs. Sepleton is a nice lady, a good lady, or not. So we'll continue with the story in the next class. Till then, be safe. Have a good day.